My message was very clear. I'm going to do this for 6 months and then I'm going to move along. And that is now 33 years ago. You either going to be part of that change or it's going to change you. And I always prefer to be part of that change, although it means you're probably going to get the hits first. You're going to get beaten up a couple of times, and that's fine. And I created Mary, and Mary was programmed as an agent to contradict me and ask questions. I can tell you, these were 1 hour and 15 minutes, valuable conversation. I can tell you, Frederick, great moments.
Welcome to the HR Masterclass, the podcast where we explore leadership, culture, and talent. I am Frédéric Nolf, and in this podcast, I hand the microphone to leaders who have something meaningful to say. We talk about experience, convictions, and how they make things move. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Steven Scheers, Chief People and Transformation Officer at Gaming1. Gaming1 is a leading brand in the gaming sector, operating across 6 to 7 European countries with its headquarters in Liège. The company employs around 1,700 people, the majority of whom are engineers, developers, and architects. Because behind the casinos and sports betting, Gaming1 is first and foremost a technology company running a 24/7 online platform. It generates no less than 150 million EBITDA annually. Steven brings 24 years in HR, a career that started almost by accident when he was heading for accounting. Since then, he has moved through multinationals like TNT, where he headed HR for up to 180,000 people, and Toyota as well, then a cybersecurity startup in San Francisco, Napoleon Games, and now Gaming1. What defines him? Boldness for sure. A deliberate appetite for discomfort, an HR mindset firmly rooted in business performance, and a remarkable ability to bring tech teams along on transformations no one thought possible. In this conversation, we talk about what it means to be a bold HR leader in the gaming industry, how Gaming1 overhauled its entire pay structure to reward skills over hierarchy, the real opportunities and risk of AI in organizations, what you truly learn when you hit a wall in your career, and a bunch of more things. This podcast is produced with the support of our partners TrendSearch and Q7 Leader. I wish you an excellent listen, and if you enjoyed this episode, feel free to subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and share it with others.
Hey, Frederick, I'm Steven Scheers. I'm the Chief People and Transformation Officer for Gaming1, and happy to be with you here today.
Yeah, cool. What has been your professional journey, Steven?
But look, I think when I started, but maybe I go a step back, because my dad, he traveled. He was a diplomat for NATO and an Air Force officer. So we moved a little bit around Europe, and he lived in the US. Very early when I was born, my dad was, for example, 2 years in the US. So for me, I really wanted stability in my professional career. So I thought I was going to become an accountant. So my first role was in a company that was selling computers and faxes, and I started there as an accountant. Now, long ago, and now talking about 1993, but the idea was that I was going to be keeping books and probably become a tax analyst. That was the idea.
And be happy with it. Yeah.
And be happy with it. Now, that went completely wrong, I have to say. So that didn't last very long, because I think about 6 months in that role, the head of HR came to me with the message, "Hey, it looks like you're good with people and good with numbers. Why don't you come to HR?" And my answer was, "No way. Never gonna do that." Why would I go to HR? She convinced me, and mainly convincing me because said, "Look, we're going to give you training, we'll give you education. It's all going to be around development. So why don't you come to the HR side?" My message was very clear. I'm going to do this for 6 months, and then I'm going to move along. And that is now 33 years ago.
What kept you in HR?
I think what kept me in HR is not being an HR guy in an HR environment.
All right. Can you tell more?
But look, I'm sure we're going to elaborate a lot more on the way I look at HR. But for me, I quickly realized that if you take a certain position in HR, you have access to the executives. You play a little bit of role where people underestimate you. Um, and I realized that if you want to be bold and you want to grasp responsibility, it's a perfect position to be in, because a lot of executives, a lot of colleagues, a lot of people kind of don't look at you as a threat. So if you combine that ambition of grasping things, but you do it as kind of an underdog, it's a role that I love.
It's a Trojan horse.
I don't want to call, because that sounds negative, but more
No,
like, hey, I can deliver value. Why don't you let me show you? And that evolved in, I'm going to show you I can add value, and then you're probably going to embrace me. And honestly, I don't think there is a role in a company where you can do that than in the position of HR.
okay, cool. Well, it's actually in my thinking a role very close to the one of the CEO, because you need to go very broad. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's figures, it's many stakeholders. So in a way, it's very close to the profile of CEOs when I see people like you.
Yeah, I think the only look, I often thought about what's gonna be my next step, and I've got multiple times I had the possibility to go outside of HR. And I always said, no, I don't want to do that. I always want to keep HR. I mixed it with logistics. Mixed it with retail. I mixed it with strategy. For the moment, within Gaming1, I'm running compliance, IT, customer service, HR, and strategy. So I don't want to let go that HR part, because that gives me again that carte blanche to ask the challenging questions. Did I ever think going into general management? Yes, but I think that would be more difficult to play that card. So honestly, I love the role that I'm currently playing, and I don't think I'm gonna ever do something else.
You know, I happen to meet more and more CHRO who come from the business for whom it was like the ultimate thing
Yeah.
to go in HR, which wasn't the case years ago. People wouldn't see HR as a place to go, but it has changed. And people believe that with professional maturity, they would reach that level. So you did the reverse. So you started there, you stayed there, and then you add more stuff around your HR role, right?
But I'm happy to see, look, for if I see the opportunities that HR has gotten over the last, let's say, 10 years. Um, if we let go a little bit of the what we would call the old-fashioned way of doing things, the opportunities are massive. I look, colleagues here at shows that really took the COVID time to redesign the way of working, to redesign the way we're looking at work. Now with the whole AI, honestly, one of the reasons why I pushed to have I think there's a massive opportunity to combine AI with human behavior, and honestly, that's the reason why I love that transformation part of my role. Because the look, honestly, every day when we talk about AI, and we see more opportunities, but we also see more boundaries, and kind of overcoming those boundaries by those opportunities that AI and also the way we look at things. Honestly, in HR, I don't think there's ever been a better moment than to be in HR for this moment, for those people that love change.
Yeah. So before joining Gaming1, what have been the two, three big moments in your career?
But probably it started with my first, where I wanted to go into finance, and the HR person convinced me to go. Look, if at that moment I would not have done it, probably you and I would not be talking today. I think I probably would have been very comfortable, at least for a while, in in finance, and probably would have made my way. But still, so that was one moment. The second one was, look, I ran HR for TNT for about 5 years.
A very
Um,
large company, right?
oh, I think we were at that moment we were 180,000 people.
Wow. And so you were the
So
number one HR in that company of
yep.
that size. Wow.
So the member of the executive committee and run HR globally. Look, my HR team at that moment was over 500 people. So it was really and the last 2 years we worked on the deal with UPS. So, so literally ready to go to UPS and lead international HR for the whole group until the European Commission canceled the deal. Um, but that's not the most triggering moment for me was when I then went to San Francisco and started to work for a startup. That's when I realized that I needed to reinvent myself, because everything that worked well with TNT was very well established. I realized that I became comfortable. I was kind of sailing on a boat where I thought I was moving the boat, but it literally was moving my chair. And then you go to a very fast moving startup company in San Francisco, which was in online security, where the majority of the people were aged between 25 and 30 probably, because they were online security specialists, and they challenged me on everything. And for me, that was an eye-opening moment. It was all about, I need to reinvent myself, and a lot faster than I've ever did before. And that's when the moment I promised myself, I'm never gonna go back into a position where I'm comfortable. And that's the last moment. And I think since then I will always stay in techno or in very fast-moving companies, because that non-comfort, I just love it.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that's probably the second thing. And then the third one is the shift from HR into other areas. So kind of the dilemma: shall I leave HR, or shall I take something in addition? And for me, the logical link with Napoleon was HR and strategy. Um, and now it just expanded. And for me, that's the third moment where so for the first, finance toward HR. The second was going from comfort to discomfort. And the third one, expanding HR with really, I think for the moment, really the most interesting IT. That combination is powerful.
Yeah. What's the story of combining HR and IT in your role? How did that happen?
Yeah, when we looked at last year on everything that was happening with regards to AI, artificial intelligence, we ask ourselves: is this going to be a system thing? Is this going to be a process thing? Is this going to be around people? And at the end, we decided it's probably all going to be around trust. It's going to be, how do we explain people that changing their way of working, um, adapting to a new thing is going to be comfortable. And then we said, you know what? As this is going to be a transformation, who is better positioned than our HR person? So it was more something that came from the executive committee when we did the new governance for Gaming1. They said, look, this is all going to be around transformation. So why don't you take all of the support functions, with the exception of legal and finance for the obvious reasons? Um, and I think because it was all about change and transformation, they passed it on to HR.
Cool. What do you see now that you didn't see before you had this perimeter?
That IT people are different people than HR people, to be
I knew it. I knew that. You should have
so
asked me.
it is different.
Okay.
It is different. So it's kind of reminds me, kind of when I started with AVG, came back from TNT. So you go to San Francisco, you explain people, and they look at you and say, "We don't believe a word, and you have to convince us." I have exactly the same feeling again now. Um, I honestly, it's the same with compliance and customer service people. Is you have to tell it, you have to wrap your message in a different way. And that makes it interesting. It makes it challenging. But once again, it comes back to that reinventing yourself. And every time you think you know how to do it, think again, because they ask for you something different. Sometimes it's changing the wrapping, sometimes it's changing the content.
Okay. We'll go in a moment to the activities, the actual activities of Gaming1,
Yep.
but because it's pretty interesting as well. But I'd like to first ask you the question about your inspiration. Where did you get your inspiration from? Are there some particular people who inspired you, readings, trainings, experiences?
But there are a couple. Like if you've been, I'm now 30. What is it? 34 years in business. So I've really worked with some great people. Um, Honestly, the TNT time, we were at that stage the biggest employer of the Netherlands. That meant we had great people around it. But first of all, my passion comes from my dad. Sounds very fluffy, but look, he has always shown me that ambition is nothing wrong, but you have to work hard. um, show that you go the extra mile. My dad came from a family where before nobody studied. He was the first one that went to university, and he made it up to a colonel in the Air Force and was one of the major diplomats with NATO. So he's proven to me that you can do everything, but you have to work for it. And honestly, that's the same message I'm passing on to my kids, is that everything is possible, but it's not always easy.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think probably the person that I learned most from was the not he was afterwards he was the CEO of Siemens. He was kind of my mentor for 5 6 years.
Wow, lucky you.
Um, and but he had a very simple way of looking to things. He was the master of making things that were very complex very simple. And he was the one that kept on telling me is, "Look, you can do a lot of yourself, but if you don't have the right people around you that can stop drama and decomplex things, you're never gonna get anywhere." Um, and Donald Quinn is for me the guy that I still today, if I ever have a big challenge, and honestly, I'm talking here about 25 years ago, I would still drop him an email. He's now close to 80, and I still see him as the guy that brought me to the place where I am today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, these are people that I worked with closely or know very well. But of course, look, I remember a moment where I was lucky to meet Erin Meyer, even I think about 6 months ago, who wrote the book around Netflix. These are people that inspire me.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
having a conversation with her and see how she
The
looks at things.
INSEAD professor, right?
She's
Yeah.
INSEAD professor. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
correct. So we invited her in Gaming1,
Oh, cool.
which we try to do every 3 months to come up with a big speaker. But these are people that fill a room. These are people that everything they say, you listen, and it's something to think about.
You know, I want to confess something. So, Erin Meyer, indeed, for those who listen to the podcast who do not know her, it's very interesting. She worked a lot. She has dual nationality. I think she's American and French, and
Correct.
she studied culture.
Yep. Yep.
Indeed, her last book was around the culture at Netflix, but before that, she wrote on national culture, and it's very well spelled out. And her biggest fan is actually my daughter Apolline, my older daughter. And while she was studying her business master, she incorporated the thinking of Erin Meyer in her thesis. And so she was really, wow, that you know her? I say, I've already seen her even on a conference. And when was it? 2 years ago, I think I was at INSEAD, and I actually met her at the cafeteria. And so I
Yep.
took a picture and sent the picture of Erin Meyer to my daughter. It was like, you know, like if you have a boy and you see a soccer
Yep.
star. And so the effect with my daughter of having a picture of Erin Meyer was also, oh, that
You
you
should
met
have
Erin
told me. I
Meyer.
would have invited you and your daughter when we had
Oh,
her a
yeah.
few months ago.
Well, Steven, next time you can count on me. Certainly, certainly. Perhaps I should try to get her on that on this podcast. Why not? Um, with that experience, what are the convictions that you forge yourself based on your own experience? What is no true for you?
But I think I would go back to what Dole told me is about, and I would call it talent density. Surround yourself with people that are really, really good. I would say performance is extremely important for me. That's where I sometimes go wrong with the old-fashioned HR, where we talk a lot about caring. Now, caring is important, and I don't want to I don't want to say the opposite, but for me, it is about performance and having strong people around you, people that probably in many aspects are better than yourself. Um, Probably these three words, I would say: talent, density, performance, and development. These is probably the things that I carry along with me for years, um, and probably are my main values.
Yeah, you know that term of performance recently was kind of became kind of negative for some people,
Yeah,
as if it was kind of overworking all the time. And
yeah.
I don't think what it means. What it means being performant means, well, you do the job and enjoy what you do and deliver results. And when you are in the flow, in fact, you are performant. And that's what we should aim at. Being performant means being in the flow and helping the company deliver the project you are there for. And that's performance,
Yep.
nothing else.
But I understand the friction. Look, even within Gaming1, look, we often discuss. is it family or is it team? Oh, of course, logically, I'm more in favor of that team because honestly, we have people that play at a certain position in the team, and look, if they're not playing their best game, then let's see that we can find them another. Um, that's for me logical, but it's not always taken for granted, and sometimes in organizations you have to make that change. But for me, performance is a very positive word. But it comes with hard work, it comes with dedication, it comes with perseverance, um, and sometimes it comes with sacrifices.
Yeah. You know, you use that word, is it a team or is it a family? Sometimes we hear people describe a company, oh, it's like a family. I'm not sure that that's what you want. A family, well, number one, can be dysfunctional, more often than that. And then you do not choose your family. In a company, yeah, at the end, you choose people. And I think it's a kind of dangerous thing to confuse a team with a family.
Yeah, and of course, look, there are components in the family part. Look, we love to enjoy time with each other even after work. That's for me. So one of the values we have within Gaming1 is pleasure. Look, we love to celebrate. We are in an entertainment business, so for us, pleasure, for us, meeting people, enjoying life is very important, but never to the detriment of performance. Never.
Yeah, yeah. In that sense, family, what keeps people together, I would agree, but I would be careful using that word, family.
Agree. Fully.
Nothing against friendship
Yeah.
on the work floor. Steven, what is Gaming1 business?
So the Gaming1 business is a company that works in the gaming industry that does probably four things. We develop our own games that we then either use online or we use in our retail business. Um, Secondly, I would say it's a technology company. It's a company that runs a 24/7 online platform where people can put bets on either sport games or can play casino games.
Okay.
The third one, it's a retail business where in multiple European countries we have betting shops, sports, and casino where people can go and enjoy their time and have fun. And the fourth one is we have one of the 9 official casinos, or we even have 2 of the 9 official casinos in Belgium, with Namur and Spa, where that drives our licenses to run a business online. So it's
All right.
really the 4 dimensions. The core, though, from the values, I would say, comes really from the techno business. It really comes from the fact that we are that online platform where 24/7 we need to create the best services for our customers. That's really the core, I would say, of our business.
How do you deal with the purpose of a company which can for sure create entertainment, but also drive addiction, for instance?
Oh, it's a very it's part of our core business, responsible gaming. Look, we we're lucky that we as a company have decided that for us we only operate in what we call white markets. These are the markets where um, it's 100% legal, the rules are clearly defined, and we're working with legislators and politicians in order to ensure that responsible gaming is core of everything what we do. We go as far that on our tool, we alert people when we see behavior that we believe can lead to addictions. So responsible gaming, we've got our own tools, but we're also working with universities. We're working with operators, with politicians, to ensure that we try to safeguard um, that what I would say that behavior where it still is non-addictive. Now, it's not always easy. Like honestly, it's a very thin line because on one side we like people to have fun and pleasure, but at the same time we want to protect them.
Yep.
So not always easy, but we're putting a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of money, honestly, to ensure that that balance is kept.
What else is particular in that industry? What's different from the other industries you've been working with?
But look, if you compare it with techno companies, with technology companies, I don't think it's that different. Um, sometimes I feel that we're too much put into a corner, like, okay, it's gaming, so it must be bad. It's gambling, it must be bad. So sometimes we have to fight against a certain prejudice. I remember at a certain stage when we were talking about hiring people, that people were saying is, I'm not sure, is that a shady business? Look, whatever we do is legal. I know that there is an illegal betting business, which of course we're completely against, because there is no control, there are no taxes being paid. Look, we are having 1,700 people across the world. We have over almost close to 1,000 people in Belgium. We pay our taxes. We treat our people really well. We're a very responsible employer, and our money comes from a legal stream. So sometimes we have to fight against that. But once people get into our industry, our turnover rates, from an employee point of view, are very low, because
Okay.
it's vibrant, it's fun, it's entertaining, it moves very fast. So once they're on board, we seldom lose good people.
Yeah. And so you also compete with illegal competitors, right?
Oh, absolutely. Which
Yeah.
is which is a massive challenge, of course, because all of the rules that we have to play along with, which we fully support. Look, we were the ones that pushed very hard in Belgium, for example, to push the minimum age from 18 to 21. So for us, it's very important to work with the gaming commission, for example, in Belgium, to obey to all of those rules. Of course, the illegal market doesn't have to do that. Um, and sadly enough, the big internet players still allow all of those illegal casinos to operate. And we hope that there's going to be ruling against that, and that it can stop, because once again, protection of the players is extremely important.
Yeah. And so not only are they illegal, but probably they won't pay taxes, and they won't be good citizens by any measure, right?
I know, if you're illegal, then you're illegal to the end. You're not going to be half illegal. So indeed, it's not only not playing by the book. It's really avoiding all kind of obligations and all kind of financial obligations also.
Yep. Stephen, you've joined quite recently, right? When
Yep.
did you join?
I joined 15 months ago.
15 months ago?
Um, Now I had a previous experience with a competitor of Gaming1. So I run HR and strategy for Napoleon before I went to Gaming1. Um, and it's honestly one of the executives that went from Napoleon to Gaming1 that convinced me to also join Gaming1 and be part of the transformation journey.
So they have a program, hire a friend, right?
They
And
they have.
maybe
I'm not sure as an executive he didn't get the bonus for it, but yes, it went via that route.
bring
Correct.
a friend to work. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
correct.
that's cool. Um, you're known to be a very bold HR person, and that's one of the reasons why I've asked you to come to this podcast. And very experienced in large companies, in startups. So when you joined Gaming1, how did you? What has been your first things you've been looking at, and how do you organize yourself when you step in as a new CHRO plus plus?
But first of all, I wasn't planning to join another gaming company, and when they contacted me for Gaming1, it was really more under the umbrella to coach one or two members of the executive team. Because besides my role as transformation and people officer, I'm a CEO of a coaching company.
Okay.
So I met two of the founders, two people that are also involved in our Invest, and I met them, and we were more discussing, hey, how can you help us in our transformation journey as a coach? And after a couple of conversations, it really went like, okay, instead of telling us what to do, why did you come and do it yourself? So I decided to join. And probably the first three things was kind of looking to the organization with, I would say, open eyes, being kind of the observer. As a member of the executive committee, I was able to observe the way we're doing things. And of course, with the experience that I had with Napoleon, knowing the industry, I could compare.
Yep.
Um, So one of the first things, we changed the governance of the way we were doing things, changed the way we were looking at HR, changed um, the structure towards a pretty traditional HR structure with a lot of HR business partners. Because for me, the core of your backbone of the organization is really your business partners, those that are very close to the business and kind of be the coaches, the consultants of the business. That was probably the second. And the third one, look, we asked ourselves, what are the things that we need to do in HR and also in the core functions? And let's focus on those. And everything that is nice to have, we maybe put that aside, but everything we do, nobody else should be better in what we do than ourselves. So we focused on a couple of things, but we just want to be the best in what we do.
Mm.
I'm pretty proud that although only after 12 months being there, but we got rewarded with the HR Excellence Award as employer of everything we did in HR. So that made my team and as a consequence myself extremely proud that
Sure.
what they did got already valued after, even though a very short time only.
Yeah. What have you done? What have been your major achievements in these 12 to 15 months?
But I think, and I look, it's still early days, so you never know how is this going to evolve. But I think one of the things where we, together with Techno, were extremely bold is we created a career ladder. And we said, as of now, we're no longer going to pay people based on their hierarchical position. We're going to pay them based on their skills. We're going to pay them on the way they are adaptable. We're going to pay them on the way they manage teams. And that meant that you could have managers that have people reporting to them that are now going to be higher grade, better paid, more promotional. And it's a program that we ran together with technology, hand in hand. And 12 months ago, we said, together with the CTO, we said, you know what? We have no idea if this is going to work. But you know what? We're going to go for it. We're going to try. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to learn from it. We're going to correct it. And now, 12 months later, it's implemented. We're paying. Next week, which is the first week of May, we're going to be showing all of the salary ranges to everybody. So we're going to be a step ahead on the pay transparency. And we're going to tell everybody where they're paid, why they're paid that way, and not based on the old system of positions, but based on the new systems of skills. Very bold move, Frederick.
Yeah.
Um, did it go perfectly? No. Did we lose people? Yes. But we believe it was the right path. And I can tell you, the high performers, they love it.
Yeah. When I said you're bold, here is a good example. Doing such a big change, and you know, and I know that the pay structure is something very, very touchy and very sensitive in companies. Why did you decide to make that change?
But it's probably driven by the CTO. So Christophe Boniver, who's one of the guys that was really at the beginning of Gaming1, he was already there, and I think he just got frustrated with the way HR was doing HR. And every time when he came to HR and said, "This is what I like," the answer was, "We can't. It's too difficult. Nobody has ever done that before." Um, and I think if I would have given the same answer, I don't think I would have lasted very long. And I remember the days when I left TNT and went to AVG, I had to drop everything that I knew. And I thought, what's the risk? If it fails, do you know what? We fail together. If it wins, we win together. And not trying is always losing. So it was a little bit, and probably that's maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm in the betting industry. It was a big bet. Um, Once again, it didn't go always well, but the evolution is great. And honestly, the trust now that we have from the CTO and from the technical organization is massive.
By the way, is this an industry rewarding risk?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would go. I'm not sure that we are rewarding risk because we are in an industry that is compliance is extremely important, but within certain limits, we are okay to make bets, and we're okay to say, you know what, we're going to try, and if it doesn't work, you know what, we tried.
Are there some HR practices, principles, habits that you've taken distance with, where you say, no, not with me anymore, or never has been the case with me? Kind of things that everyone seems to have accepted for granted, and that you say, no, that's not what I do.
But that's a difficult, Frederick, because those people that don't know me very well, they know that I love to be kind of devil's advocate, and that I often disagree with the traditional way of us looking to HR. I would say there are many things in the traditional way of HR that I want to distance myself from. But it starts already that many companies are still relying to HR practices that date from the 60s and the 70s. And we wonder why our business people are not fond of it. Um, Now, is it the HR people to blame? Maybe not. But I always think, look, if you're working for a company and you can't be yourself, you can't change company. And there are many companies out there that are looking for bold ideas, and that are looking for people that are willing to step away from the traditional way of doing business. And for me, that's about pay, that's about performance, that is about, and I'm not saying that the 9 grid or performance management, we have to throw everything overboard, but asking yourself the question together with the business, is the way we're doing this still the right way? And not from, I need to keep it for myself and it needs to be from HR. And if it's not HR, it's no good. No, be vulnerable and go to your colleagues and say, you know what, you want something? Let's build it together. And by the way, now that also means that when we go to IT and we go to technology and we say, hey, we want to build something around performance management, they're going to tell me, you know what, you want infrastructure around it? We're going to help you. Because it's no longer my product. It's no longer HR's product. It's something that we do together. So I think that boldness of really saying, and probably that's the red line through my life and through my CV, is that take risks, learn, and do it better. And every time when you do it with passion and 100% energy. What can go wrong? You can fail fast, that's okay, and then you do it better. But everybody sees that you're doing it with so much passion and so much energy. It's even when you ask me values and I talk about talent density, for me, the nicest moments are the moments when somebody comes to you and said, I didn't think that was even possible. I didn't think that we were going to succeed. Shit, it would feel really good. Sorry, I shouldn't be swearing, but it feels really good what we've achieved. And was it perfect? It wasn't perfect, but look where we are. For me, these are the nicest moments in my career when you just do things, and sometimes small, sometimes big, where people didn't expect you to do that well.
Yeah, I've always myself been seen as an innovative person in HR, and I think one of the reasons is also is two things. Number one, don't think HR for HR. Don't be loyal to your own needs and your own processes. Of course, to a certain extent, okay, you need to pay payroll, and no question. But try to really put yourself in the shoes of the business people, and it's not just a phrase or a slogan. Try really to understand, okay, what are the needs, and what are we serving? What are we working for? And sometimes it can really bring a change. So you're not running performance management to get your scores, to calculate your stuff in HR. You try to do performance management to help the managers manage the teams, and not to fill in a form for HR. And too often, out of our habits, we keep it our way, instead of trying to look at it from, I do not like so much the idea of customers, but okay, let's use it, internal customers. And that's also brings innovation, because the needs change. What was true by a few years ago is not true anymore. And the other thing with innovation, I've always believed that if you want innovation from employees, be innovative with them.
Yeah, fully agree.
Bring them new stuff.
Yeah.
Do things for them that will make them feel, hey, I'm surrounded by ideas, new ways of doing, and so either it will help them do the same, or if they already do the same, you won't frustrate them by you're supposed to be innovative, but what we do for you is not innovative at all. And
Look, you're absolutely spot on, Frederick. I call that parallel universe. So I see a
bro,
lot of HR people creating a parallel universe where they're getting an orgasm about the things that they develop for themselves, and then they wonder why it's not working. Um, but I see it often also in conferences as where I hear people talk, and I honestly have to say I don't understand a word what they're talking about. And I if I would copy that and then bring it to my boardroom and say this is what we're gonna do, they're gonna look at me and say, What the hell are you talking about?" Um, and I think we sometimes make things too complex. So look, I fully agree with you. Now, are there sometimes reasons that things changing things is very difficult? It probably is. Initially, I related it to money. Look, I think I'm in a sector today where we're generating good cash, so it's probably a little bit easier. But I can tell you, the times I was with TNT logistics, money was very scarce. And still we were able to do a lot of innovative stuff, but with very scarce resources. So I don't think it's related to money. I don't think it's related to culture. I think it's related to the willingness to change, the
yeah.
willingness to take bold moves and try.
And there, HR has a key role to play by creating an environment which is as such for employees. Though it reminds me something I had not that long ago, conversation with a company where they said, yeah, we've modified our leadership competencies, but we've called them leadership attributes because we believe blah, 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 blah. And in the future, and then I thought, okay, is that company that different from the other companies that they need different leadership attributes? Well, I thought, okay, to a certain extent, leadership is leadership and pretty much the same, whatever the sector, or okay, there can be few differences if you are very innovative or very
Yep.
conservative, but for example, but at the core, leadership is leadership and evolve should evolve similarly in companies. But so they were so proud to say, no, 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 it's not competencies, it's attributes. And yeah, and at the end they confessed that they were disappointed that no one in the business was using their work. And in fact, you've said it, it's often too complex.
Yeah.
It's bringing complexity that people do not need, that the business doesn't need, which costs a lot of money. Huh? Transforming your competencies into attribute and then believing you will have a much bigger impact on the business because you've created a different thing, and it's probably with good intentions, but yeah, the fact that no one is using it. And so I thought one of the or big difficulties in HR, you can design whatever you want. If people don't use it, it's useless.
Correct. Yeah.
And the adoption of the HR comes mainly from the managers. What we do is mainly things where the manager will have a role to play. And what makes that the manager uses an HR tool, process, system, whatever, it should be simple. And I mean this in the very positive way. It should be simple. Don't confuse people with HR stuff. And then it should be useful to them. They will never do it for you. They'll do it because they believe it's useful and simple. And so the adoption will skyrocket.
Frederick, you're taking the words out of my mouth. Look, I would often tell my people, if it takes you longer than 5 minutes to explain to somebody,
Oh,
how do you ever think that they're gonna cascade it further? Um,
I love that. Music to my ears. I
yeah,
once said to an HR team, uh, the A4 principle.
yeah.
If your policy doesn't fit on an A4, it's time to review your policy. It means you've created too much entropy, too much things around it. So if you cannot explain it in a simple manner, A4, try to make it simpler or change it because it has grown too complex.
Look, I worked 5 years for Toyota Motor Europe, so the A4 principle has been brainwashed into me with the first three lines needs to be purpose, and if the purpose is unclear, he wouldn't read the rest of the document. So
Yeah.
I know
Well,
exactly what you're talking about.
I thought A4, I invented it, but then no, probably
No,
I grabbed it
no,
from
no, no, no.
somewhere else. Doesn't
It's one of the Toyota tools as part of Kaizen. But look, we all know it's a lot more difficult to make things shorter than longer.
Yeah. Let's talk about culture. In your words, what are we talking about when in HR or in business we talk about culture? What is it?
That's a difficult one because culture is also often very, I would say, very hyped. I think the right culture. Let me try to express it that way. For me, the right culture is a group of people that together achieve things that other companies can't. And I know this is very buzzy, and but the moment you start breaking it down, you get into I agree or disagree. For me, it's the sum that counts. Is if I look to a company, why are certain companies outperforming the market and other companies don't? For me, it's culture. It's the willingness to, and sometimes it's coming out of a negative. Is a company is done for whatever reason really not well and has eagerness to get better. Sometimes is you bring two companies together and just clicks. We all know the examples of the Nokias of this world where they lost focus on results, which for me is a culture thing. And it comes down again to me, and I'm probably going to be repetitive today, but performance for me is that thing that results from culture. So you need to find people that are willing to work together. You need to find people that are willing to have pleasure with each other. You're willing to, you need people that are open for change. And if you find those people, you can bring them together at a spot. That outcome has to be performance. I strongly believe if you have those ingredients, performance is the outcome. Um, Creating that culture where people are also willing to take risks because that's embedded in that one. You won't get to, I think, sustainable performance if you're not willing to reinvent yourself and take risks because the market is moving. Honestly, with AI, one of the biggest risks that I see today um, is for those people, honestly, maybe not even their fault, that are not on that front runner of AI. They're missing a lot. I see today in our organization those people that are experimenting with Claude and those people that are not. The difference is massive. And once you get to know Claude, I'm pretty sure there's going to be another one, God knows with what name, that is even going to take a step further. If you miss that train, Frederick, it's going to be extremely difficult.
Yeah, fully agree, and fully agree. And those of us who are close to tech companies probably have an advantage at the moment because we are surrounded, and let's not forget it's still a minority. Most of the people are very much outside of it. I had lunch today with a very good HR person, and she said, "Well, I need to update myself on AI. I'm not there yet." And yeah, what she knew was very preliminary, and she's one of the good HRs in the country. Surely, but that's a train that is already in motion,
Yeah.
and people should take. And yeah, some companies try to also keep it a bit too far away from people because they prohibit a number of things, and so they work out of protection more than out of experiment. And yeah, it can frustrate people as well to see that others have better tools and do things in a much easier manner, and it's not allowed for them. Yeah.
But we have to admit to ourselves that it is scary, Frederick? The speed in which things are going for the moment, it is scary. So I don't think we have to play it down. Are there risks with AI? Absolutely. Are there risks on potential? I think jobs will fundamentally change. I think the way we're looking at things is fundamentally going to change. So there are certain risks, but you either going to be part of that change or it's going to change you. And I always prefer to be part of that change, although it means you're probably going to get the hits first. You're going to get beaten up a couple of times, and that's fine. But I always prefer to get beaten up first and be one of the front runners than never get beaten up and become somewhere in the pack.
Yeah, it is definitely not a small change. So, in a recent episode of this podcast, I had the chance to have the Trends Manager of the Year
Yeah,
on the French part of Belgium, Fabrice Brion,
yeah,
who is the founder of iCare. one of the two unicorns that we have in Walloon. And he's in AI for 20 years because what they do is actually AI. And he said, well, look, the revolution that brings AI is similar to when the printing was invented. And printing revolution was what brought humanity out of Middle Age to bring it to Renaissance.
Yep.
And he says that's similar. That's similar. So it's
Yep.
not too probably, except that it goes much faster. And he says it's about disseminating knowledge. Before the printing, knowledge was very not well distributed. And he says it's similar. It's of that nature for the good and for the bad. So there's a number of things to put in place as well, because not all that knowledge is, there's the deep fake and everything comes with it.
Yep.
So the magnitude of the change is probably something that no one has never seen before. It's probably bigger than the changes that we've seen in our lives, like the internet or the mobile or whatever. When someone like Fabrice Briand is comparing it to the printing. And there's a future podcast that we'll have here with a Frenchman from Orange Business,
Yep.
Laurent Office, with their CHRO, 30,000 people strong company. They're very much by nature in HR, in AI, because that's what they do. And he has a very interesting thoughts on AI and humans in terms of speed, in terms of brain, mental health,
Yep.
and more. So that's really a hot topic. And beyond the hype, there's some fundamental things that people start looking at, and it makes it even more interesting for HR because
Yep.
it's very, very profound. Yeah,
Yep.
indeed. Yeah.
I look forward to listen to that podcast. But for me, in that danger sits the opportunity to kind of see what it can do for you, but still keep on having your own beliefs. So for me, it will never replace what I believe in, but I see it helps me in many ways. And most of the things are transactional, operational things. I can currently pass it on. But when ChatGPT came out in the beginning, and look, I'm driving 2 times a week to Liège, um, and I was asking. That's the moment when ChatGPT came with voice. So for me, it was like I'm having a conversation with ChatGPT until I realized that there is an option where you can create a different agent on the ChatGPT. So I had Jack, who was ChatGPT normal, and I created Mary, and Mary was programmed as an agent to contradict me and ask questions. I can tell you, these were 1 hour and 15 minutes, valuable conversation. I'm pretty sure that everybody in cars next to me were thinking this guy is, because I was permanently talking, and Jack and Mary, so we were having conversations. I can tell you, Frederick, great moments.
I love very much this for many reasons. One of them is that you ask AI to contradict you. There's one thing currently in AI that people start noticing. AI is made to please you.
Yep.
And I thought, so when I work already quite some time now with AI, and I thought he understood I'm brilliant. He always tells me, oh, that's a great idea. You should continue in this direction. So it's good. He recognizes what I'm
Yeah.
good at. Until I found out he does that with everyone.
Yes.
Probably everyone has some brilliance, but you see what I mean. It can very much be a servant thing, trying to please you, go in your direction, which would probably trigger a lot of dopamine shots in your brain, create addiction, by the way, perhaps, and being dangerous because it could bring you into some directions where you won't be contradicted, and so you'll believe more and more in what you say. And recently, I've done an experiment myself, and it triggered something like a warning. Um, I'm writing a white paper at the moment, which I will release probably in the next weeks. And someone told me on evidence-based HR, and there's a part on the AI and how HR should be more grounded in data. And someone told me, that with the Google AI, you could ask them to create a podcast based on your white paper. I said, oh, okay, I'll try this. And quickly, before driving to see one of my customers, I asked that AI, okay, can you make a podcast? And so I fed him with my 28-page PDF of my white paper. And when I was driving, I received a message, your podcast is ready. Oh, okay, let's be curious. And so I listened to a podcast with fake but sounding really real voices of a man and a woman commenting my white paper and say, here is the author and blah, blah, blah. I felt extremely proud. I say, wow, they recognize the value of my creation, blah, 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 until I needed to remind myself, hey, it's fake. It's fake. It's not real people who
Yeah.
have read your white paper and who say, oh, we love the ideas. It's a machine which has been programmed to do so.
Yeah.
So it's fake, and no one else will never listen to that podcast except yourself listening to someone praising your own ideas,
Yeah.
which are
That's
perhaps good. But then I'd like you to tell me if you like them when I'll send you my white
yeah.
paper. But
Yeah.
so you see where it can bring us in
Yeah.
this high satisfaction, high recognition, but fake.
Yeah, but I don't think it's so different than what we had. Look, that part is not so different. Look, I take a part of at a certain moment we had in a small group we were challenging Erin Meyer around how can you keep the culture sharp, and she gave us a very nice anecdote. I hope she won't mind me quoting her on that one, but she said, as an executive team, you should come together once a month, and you should have a dinner, and the only purpose is to tell the others what you don't like. Because we're so good on, she said, call it feedback sessions and take a dinner. She said the first time is going to be awkward. The second time is going to be better. And the third time, people are going to look really forward to get honest feedback. Because how often do we still get honest feedback, Frederick? It's polished. It's that even at performance versus well-being, is it okay to have a conversation with your people and to say, honestly, what you did today wasn't good? I can tell you, and maybe it's more cultural in Belgium, but if you're in the Netherlands, I remember the times at TNT, the receptionist could come to me and said, what you said yesterday in that speech, I don't like it.
Yeah, if you like
Um,
feedback, go to the Netherlands.
on feedback, absolutely. But I even look at our ex-coms is I would love us to be more provocative with each other and to be more open. And so for me, and I have to be honest, asking Mary to be provocative or contradict me was like, you have to keep on asking questions to me and ask me the why. So it's the simple tool of asking why. And at a certain moment you realize is that, I think Mary is right. So,
Well,
look,
you know, what you point there is people say feedback is important. I like to add a caveat. What's important is feedback, but more than that is your reaction to feedback. What people
absolutely.
do with the feedback. Feedback
Yeah,
alone, you know,
yeah,
if you throw feedback at people but they do nothing with it, it's useless. And if you do it in a way that if you give me feedback when I'm not at the right moment for that, or when the relationship is not good, or whatever, I'll not do anything with it. I'll say keep your feedback. But so it's more than feedback is the reaction that people have to feedback that really matters. That really create a change.
I agree. And
Yeah.
let me come back to that. So you asked me at a certain stage, what did we do in the first period of Gaming1? When we talked about the career ladder, that was just only a tool. What we really did there is we built a relationship with technology where we proved them that we're okay to go together with them on a journey to make mistakes. It could have been
Oh,
it could have been anything. This was really about, and it created a relationship where now feedback sometimes is tough. And I sometimes get messages where I kind of think, goshy, Christoph is again very harsh. And then he comes back and saying the only reason why I can do that is because I know we have that relationship now. And then it puts me back and say, do you know what? He's right.
yeah.
He's absolutely
And
right.
probably a good way to create that relationship is to start with positive feedback, praising people in the real and honest manner, but first also recognizing what's right before telling people what's wrong, which is in a way what people often do with feedback. I'll tell you what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Have you first seen what is right with me
Yeah.
before going in that
Sure.
avenue? You said mistakes. I suspect that in a career reach of 34 plus 34 years, you said you must have made mistakes. Have you done failures, like serious failures?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Wow.
can you tell us?
Wow. I think failures for me are the ones where afterwards I would say I'm not sure I would do them again, but at the same time, if I would not have done them again, I probably would have not made the next step. But there was a time, like when I started my career, so I went quickly from finance and then went into HR, got into Toyota Motor Europe, stayed there for 5 years, felt like this was going too slow, went to Germany, and at the age of, I think it was 29 or 30, I became the head of HR for Sony Ericsson in Munich, which I was by far the youngest. And that was just a move that was not right for me. Um, and it was probably partially ambition, partially like I came from Dade Bearing where I worked with Donald Quinn, who I referred to before. And I remember, and I still have the letter when I told him I was going to leave, and I was going to go to Sony Ericsson. When they checked for references, he wrote on the references that if Steven would decide to come back, it would be the happiest moment in my life.
Oh,
And I left that company, and 2 years later, or 18 months later, I hit a wall. Um, and I can tell you that was tough
what have
because,
you learned by hitting that wall?
but but first of all, I think there was that there are limits to certain things that you can do. That not building on some of the values of building strong teams and going too fast, because I will always have a tendency to go fast, um, which with the right team around you is not a problem. The right culture is not a problem. And I just think that, and of course, I can use excuses. The setup wasn't right, and the culture wasn't right. But at the end, it was me. I should have judged that really well, and I didn't. Um, so that was rough, Frederick. It was rough from a because we just bought a house in Munich, so we were well established. Family had to move, um, and it was kind of my career was going rocket high, and that was a barrier that really costed me some time more mentally, probably more also ego wise. It probably wasn't easy.
How did you manage that moment and the aftermath?
But first of all, having a family around you, and like I told you before, having parents, and especially my dad, who you look up to and said, "Lessons learned, my friend. I hope you're gonna learn from it."
Mhm.
That puts things into perspective. And probably the ego thing was more hurtful towards me. All the others around me were kind of saying, "We saw that coming," and probably it's good that it happened. So I see that it was a failure, but I learned so much from it. Um, and then I would say the second moment where I realized that it's time for me to do something else is that I lived for 5 years in Prague, just up to COVID. Um, and then I thought, this is time for me to start something for myself. That's when I started the coaching business. And if I would do my life again, probably I would have done that 10 years earlier. Um,
The coaching business?
oh yeah, it gives me so much more insights, Frederick. It gives me that freedom of I'm not connected to a company, and I am connected to a company because I think I give myself 200%, but I also have that space where I say, "You know what? I can go back to my coaching business," because one of the and probably I get into some of my life conclusions. I realize that my value in a company is probably between 3 and 5 years. It's because I can swiftly grasp the things that the low hanging fruit. I'm not afraid to make change. I see peaks in appreciation really between month 3 and I would say year 3. And that's where people then go like, and including myself, are they ready for a next wave of change, or is it okay for them to have a wave of peace? No, not that wave of peace. Um, After 3 years, like my wife would tell me, if I'm 3 weeks home after a holiday, I start thinking about redecorating the house. That's the moment she tells me go back to work. So I think that 1 to 3 years is where I'm really at my best, unless, and I've 2 times in my career, 3 times in my career, stayed longer than 3 years, is because different projects came along. Um, Look, I remember when UPS decided to buy TNT, they were running the show. After 3 months, they gave it to me, because they saw I love those kind of things. I love change. That's what I really love doing. But if you don't give me those projects, I'm gonna get involved in stuff you don't want to get me involved in. So I'm not sure what I was leading to, but for me, that is, if I look to those failures, these are the two things that I would do differently. Um, I still believe that that experience where I hit a wall was very good for me, because I don't think I would have done the things that I've done afterwards, but it was painful.
While I was listening to you, well, thank you for sharing this and being so vulnerable and authentic. And that's where I want to go. Um, Leaders who have non-personal failure, or who have been through some failures, probably become more aware of some parts of humanity, and tolerant to other people's failure, and probably more accessible to people, because those who never fail, well, cannot understand others in the eyes of those who
Yeah.
have been through such a thing. And personally, there's one story, so which I had never imagined. You say there's some failures or mistakes that you prefer to do only once, but at the same time that are big learning moments. And
Yep.
I've been through a divorce myself years ago, and an employee of the company came to my office and said, "Well, I heard that you're going through a difficult moment. I'm here for you if you want," which I found very, very, very friendly of him to come to the HR, because who is caring for the HR? And he told me, I've always seen in you kind of a perfect person, a model for many things, but that makes you more accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
knowing
and
that you failed in something makes you more accessible.
and
You're
it
not
is.
perfect. Yeah.
I don't think there is a lot of value in positioning yourself towards others as a human being that stands above everybody else, because look, when you believe in developing people, it starts with vulnerability. And look, there is a very nice exercise that I can um, kind of recommend to everybody. It's called lifelining. Is where you look back in your life and you kind of describe all of the highs and lows in your life,
Oh, yeah, yeah, very nice,
and
yeah.
you kind of reflect, why are those highs and lows, and what did you learn from it. And first thing you see, our life is cyclic. You see that some things come back together, and then the real skill is to, when you know that you're at your peak, don't have it go down, but build a new peak. So ensure that behavior where you just know it's not going to be positive for growth, stop it there. That was for me, honestly, one of the life-changing moments, really doing that intensively and asking yourself, where am I at my best? Why is that? Who were the people around me? What did trigger it? And these are things I still do. Um, Asking myself, okay, where am I on that phase? Am I still on that growing phase, or am I on that phase where I know my added value is going to go down?
Stephen, isn't it what's making us human? And we've talked a lot about AI. Isn't it a big difference?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I don't think that AI will ever ask itself if it's doing well. I hope we're all doing that at regular moments. And honestly, that's where your partner, your kids, are so valuable. But because if you ask them what they think, they will tell you. At least I can tell you, my wife does. So she does tell me where she feels I can grow, and having people around you that do that, call it friends, call it colleagues, so valuable.
Yeah. You know what makes us human is not our ability to recognize traffic lights, as
Yes.
sometimes we are asked on the internet. Prove you're not a robot.
Yep.
Well, it's probably this very ability to not always be high, to have had more difficult moments in our life, to create more empathy for other people. That's probably very human, and to keep in mind always in the midst of that AI revolution. That's a very big difference. Very
Yeah.
big. Yeah.
That, fully agree.
Uh, you've been for long in a job which requires a high energy, and you have high energy. Every time I see you, it's an energy bomb. How do you maintain such a high energy level? What's your practice?
I've got honestly no idea because I don't do anything special.
Okay.
Uh, I just think I love what I'm doing, Frederick. It's so simple. It's I now probably I'm lucky that I don't need a lot of sleep,
Mhm.
which the only thing that it does with me is my metabolism does strange things. So if I don't watch my food, I probably even double the size that I'm today. That's probably the but I don't need a lot of sleep, and I just love what I'm doing. And like I said it before, sitting in a room with people and thinking about ways to solve problems and delivering them, look, I could do that 24/7. I just feel that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today, and seeing people growing and seeing people developing for me, and I see it with my kids, I see it in my relationship. I invest a lot in my friends. Look, I love to go out and enjoy moments, but it's always in that spirit. Let's enjoy time together. And I did opt long time ago, stop doing things that don't give me energy. Um, I'm not gonna go to conventions where I don't think I'm gonna learn something. I'm not gonna go to dinner parties where the main purpose is to get drunk together. Look, sometimes it's important, but if that's the main purpose, you won't see me there
Mhm.
because that eats energy, and that would be
Well,
a waste.
that reminds me, 12 years ago, I've been to India for my previous job at IBA, and I needed to go there to visit a ashram in Gujarat. And it's a long story, so I'll give the short version. The person who was the leader of that ashram, and it's non-religious. It's just a place of healing, and so they had a hospital, they had an orphanage, they had a school, the nursing school, everything, a farm. That's really unbelievable, and so it's called Muniseva Ashram. It's not religious, nothing. It's and they have a website. It's called the Green Ashram. I encourage everyone to go and watch. It's so inspiring. And the leader of that ashram is a medical doctor, Dr. Vikram Patel. He's a man of few words, and I met him personally. I spent time with him, and it's probably the wisest man I have ever met. Just by his deeds, but what he was doing was unbelievable. How the man was doing good around him as a doctor, and taking care for orphans, for sick people, old people. Unbelievable. I thought at that time that I had met Gandhi. uh, And um, uh, I told to people around me who knew him, well, he's a man of few words. And they said, well, he was very talkative with you tonight. When I found he was only just a few words, he talked a lot, in fact.
Okay.
And I asked him one very question, because he created almost everything there, it's thousands of people. And I asked him, Dr. Patel, the same question. What's your energy coming from? What's your vision about? Why are you doing all that? And to my surprise, his answer was, after he paused and thought, I love the job. It was so simple,
Yeah.
so simple.
I think, look, I can really see it. There's nothing else that I do special. As you see, I'm not on any particular diet. I don't sport a lot, but I just love what I'm doing, and seeing change happen is the nicest things that you can do. Seeing people grow is the nicest thing that can happen.
Oh yeah, yeah. From that point of view, HR is a very nice profession when you see people flourish.
Yeah,
develop
absolutely.
in the nice
Yeah,
sense that people who go beyond the potential that others or themselves had seen in them. That's really moments of joy when you see
yeah.
people deploying and being shining. That's really cool. We'll slowly reach the end of this conversation. Is there an idea or a message that you'd like to share with people who are listening?
It's difficult because for everybody everybody has their own reality. But I think kind of the red line for me today through those podcasts, Frederick, is change will happen anyway. So are you gonna be the one that is gonna drive it, or will it drive you? And that's for me, honestly, something that has gone always with me. Do you know what? Why don't you go first? Try it. So because change is gonna happen anyway. So go in the driving seat, take a bold move, and the worst thing that can happen is that you learn something.
Mhm. What would be the advice that you would give to that young Stephen accountant, the accountant, or the young HR professional?
I would say take more risks earlier because discomfort is a great place to be. It's where all the learning starts. It's where all innovation starts. It's where world problems are being solved. It's out of discomfort. Because comfort is, honestly, it's a great place to be, but it doesn't get you anywhere.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen, for your time, the depth of your thinking. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Frederic.
If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and share it with others around you.